I'm assuming, Kumari, you can hear me, yes?
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. So for some reason, I don't know what, but Zoom is not liking my my video, so you can't see me. But that's me. That's me. That the picture is me. So as I think some of you know, we have some people who are with us that have attended other sessions. When the coronavirus pandemic started, we thought about what could we do to be of help to our clients. And we decided, we could offer membership in our executive book clubs for free. And so if anyone knows an executive who might be interested in participating in one of our book clubs, let me know. And then we decided, we do training every week for clients and much of it virtual. And so every Thursday from 9:30 to 10 a.m., we're hosting these coffee call-in and chat sessions. And I think we've done them on working virtually. We've done one on managing change. We've done one on leveraging Zoom. And today's session is on employee engagement. So next slide, please. So a little bit about us, and then I'll introduce our guest presenter today. So we do have a mix of clients and colleagues. Some of you are new to me. I don't know you so well, and others I know for many, many years. The focus of Boxer Advisors is to deliver high-end consulting, coaching, training solutions. And we think one of the things that is a differentiator of how we go about doing our work is we strategically integrate our solutions into what our clients are doing. And we find when we do that, we're able to see some real measurable return on investment. Next slide. So the focus of our work is we do three things. We help our clients build leadership capabilities, we help our clients build organizational change, and we help our clients engage and retain top talent. I think all those three things are fairly relevant these days. And again, knock on wood, we have not lost one piece of business due to the coronavirus pandemic. And I think some of that reason is what we do is relevant. And secondly, how we go about doing it makes it easy for our clients to implement the solutions. And much of what we do is virtual. So we've done these sessions. Some of them I've been the presenter, and some of them we've had a colleague be the presenter. Today, we're delighted to have a long-term colleague of mine as our guest presenter on the topic of employee engagement. Again, a very relevant topic. I met Carol many, many years ago, I won't say how many, when she was working at the Department of Health and Human Services internally. Subsequent to that, she provides services as part of our team, and I think is truly one of the country's foremost experts around career management and career development in the federal government. Obviously, a more than relevant topic these days. And so when we were thinking about doing these, Carol raised her hand and says, I would like to do a session on employee engagement. So to me, that was a no-brainer. So Carol is gonna, again, in about 27 minutes, give us, I think, some valuable content for us to think about. A couple of things, sort of housekeeping details. One is we are recording this session. And so if you would like a copy of the recording, we're going to give you my email address at the end. Just send me an email, we'll send it out. Secondly, we've muted everyone, but if you would like to play along, Carol, do you want to entertain questions as we go, or do you want to handle them at the end?
Sure, I'll entertain them as we go.
So if you have a question, you can either, I believe, Kumari, they can unmute themselves. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, so if you have a question, you can unmute yourself, and Carol will handle as many of them as she can as we go. Or everyone should have, for me, it's at the bottom of my scroll bar. It says chat, or you may have a thing that says Q&A. And if you have questions and you prefer, you can just type them out and I'll monitor them and I'll ask Carol as we go. The last thing is, one of the things that's, I know, important to us and I imagine will be helpful to Carol is we will send you out, I think, a quick survey, no more than 5 questions. It'll go out tomorrow. And so if you can fill that out, that's helpful to us as we think about planning these for May and June, and then we'll evaluate in June whether we continue for the rest of the year. So with that, Carol, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you take it from here.
All right, thank you, Ken.
My pleasure.
And so this is a little bit about me. These are my certifications. Mostly my focus is federal job coach, and but my background is in counseling psychology. I have a master's degree in counseling psychology. And when I was thinking of employee engagement and thinking about what I wanted to share today, I know of this model that I'm going to share with you at the end of these slides that I think is a very powerful model. But to get there, I wanted to build on some psychological concepts. So today we're going to talk a little bit about Maslow's hierarchy, if anybody remembers that from Psych 101. And if you don't remember it from Psych 101, I'll remind you. We'll talk a little bit about employee engagement, and then I want to share this model of employee engagement from Roberta Nault and Deirdre Pickerel. They're from British Columbia and Canada, but they have put together such a model that I think is powerful. Everyone that I work with, immediately when I show them this model, they get it. They get where they are. So in employee engagement. So that's why I think it's worth sharing. So just a little bit of reminder. I'm going to first talk about Maslow's hierarchy, just quickly go over the physiological needs, or really survival needs. The safety needs are safety. Then love and belonging, that's your connection to other people. And then esteem is your connection to yourself. And then self-actualization is when you feel that you are doing your best at whatever it is that you are attempting at that moment. So what Maslow's saying, and I don't have it here, you have to have these basic survival needs met before you can move to the next level. So really, I should have had an arrow here between these two. Oops, sorry, going back. Between the basic survival needs and then the safety needs. Then another arrow to the connection, love and belonging, feeling connected. Then another arrow to self-esteem, feeling good about yourself. And then another arrow to self-actualization, where you're really engaged and you're really, is this showing up on, I hope my email.
We can see it. Yep, we can see it.
Sorry.
Great.
Sorry. So the whole concept here is you have to have one level met in order to go to the next level. And that's motivation. As soon as, and you know how we are, as soon as we accomplish something, we're looking for something else to accomplish. That's how people are. That's what we do. And so this isn't a step-by-step approach. And it's not like every issue around your life is taken care of in each of these steps. There are different issues, different times, but the whole idea is to get to the engagement part where you are really doing your best. So when we apply that to the workplace, here we go. When we apply that to the workplace, we take a look at survival and security as the bottom two levels. And then we move to belonging, and then we move to the feelings of importance, feeling that you're contributing. And then of course we move to the highly engaged place in the workplace.
Hey, Carol?
Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
And if you're going to cover it later, that's okay. I wonder whether you might comment What's your perspective? I imagine most people have been have seen Maslow's hierarchy at some point in their career.
Yes.
The question I have is, what's your perspective on the application of that model given what we're dealing with the coronavirus? Do you have any perspective on, does that change at all or not so much?
Absolutely changes. Absolutely changes. And yeah, I definitely wanted to talk about that. Today, I wanted the conversation to be around motivation and in engagement, because we can't engage until we reach a certain level. And isn't, excuse me, everyone in the United States right now is kind of stuck at the security level, aren't we? We're not feeling all that secure.
Yeah.
And that's an outstanding question, because if somebody's feeling secure right now, I don't think that they're living in this real world. I think that they're living in a place of their own. And so, even so, as I said a moment ago, we're not feeling secure, but we can engage in different ways. It's just that we always have that underlying sense of we're not secure right now. What else do I want to say about that? That we can have a sense of belonging. We can have a sense of self, and we can be as engaged as possible. But it's hard right now. It's really, really difficult. So I want to share with you that I am assigned to a mid-level federal agency where I am a subcontractor. And the folks in this agency have been given, of their 40 hours per week, they've been given 20 hours during this time frame where they're allowed to take care of their children, do things that are not work, that are being considered work during this hopefully short time. So how can they possibly, if they're putting 20 hours towards their job, how can they possibly be totally engaged? And of course they can't. And it goes down back to because nobody's feeling secure. And so they're trying to address that in a way that keeps, this agency is trying to address that in a way that keeps them as engaged as possible while they are distracted by other requirements of this time and place. Okay, does that answer your question, Ken?
It does. Thank you. Yep.
Address it. So I wanted to go a little further and talk about safety and physiological needs. So of course, excuse me, when you're down at the survival level, if you will recall, at the bottom of the triangle, you're looking for food, water, shelter, and warmth. We all know that there are people who have lost their jobs who are really at the survival level right now during the time of Corona, or COVID-19. So they're not really engaged in the workplace. They're not really paying attention to the workplace, even if, and of course they're not in the workplace, many of them, but they're just trying to meet those survival needs. And of course, Maslow would definitely say they were disengaged. Then when we move to the next level, the security level, where we are all looking for stability, freedom from fear, folks are not engaged. So these two levels are demotivators. They're not places where people can be as motivated as they could be under normal circumstances. And as we move up the triangle, as we're motivated to continue to move, when we get to the belonging level, folks are almost engaged. They're connected to friends, their families, their coworkers. They're almost engaged, but they're not as engaged, of course, as they are going to be at the next level, which is self-esteem knowing that their contributions are important. Okay, so that's when folks offer achievement, they offer mastery, they're recognized for and respected for their contribution. So these are motivators for folks. These are high-level motivators. And as we move on up the triangle, we get to the highly engaged, the self-actualization, and that's a form of transformation. So this is where folks are highly motivated. They are able to be the best that they can be. They pursue their inner talent. They're creative. They feel fulfilled. The organization that they work for feels good about them. That's the self-actualization phase. Okay, so that's at the top. Right now, I would say that it's very difficult to be there unless you are just absolutely fantastic at what you do. You have other concerns during this time frame, which is why I thought that this was a very important topic for now. So the Society for Human Resource Management found 4 top contributors to job satisfaction were respectful treatment, compensation, trust in management, and job security. So the 4 top contributors to job satisfaction, respectful treatment would be belonging, right? Or self-esteem. Compensation would go back down to security. And then, so we see that these are different levels of Maslow's hierarchy. Then trust in management, that would go back up to belonging and self-esteem. And then again, job security, we go back down to job security. But what's important about these are that they are among the top factors that cause employees to stay or leave. And I think that's key, that these are different levels of motivation, but these are the top 4 that get people to stay or leave on the job. So this is where I wanted to get. I wanted to get to the employee engagement model, which I think is key for understanding where people are in the workplace. This particular model is not a model for this time and place. This model is a model for any time, any place. So let me move forward and show you the model. And I want to point out to you the challenge. The challenge addresses levels of difficulty and how meaningful these levels of difficulty are. So you see low level versus high level of difficulty and meaningfulness. And then the capacity is the organizational's priorities and the individual's priorities and how they connect. So how meaningful the work is that the person does, the level of difficulty, the level of challenge that the person is facing, and the capacity is how much the work meets the organization's needs and how much the work meets the individual's needs. So
Hey,
if you,
Carol,
yeah.
Carol, this is Ken. 2 things. One, we've got about 8 minutes.
Yes.
And I don't know if you're willing to hang around after 10. I mean, we've been pretty good, as you know, about ending on 10. Are you willing to go a couple minutes longer if people have additional questions, or not so much?
Sure.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll end at 10, and then if people have additional questions, we'll do it. Someone had a question. I've not seen this model, so it's interesting. Are those 4 factors, is there anything regarding the order of importance?
Yes. Yes. That's where I was going to go. So I think you can see my cursor, right, as I'm pointing this out to you. So to have an employee engaged is where you want the employee to be. And I'll get back to this engaged section in a moment. But when the employee isn't meeting their capacity, when they're underutilized, when they're underemployed, we move down to this level. And if that happens to an employee long enough, they become disengaged. They're no longer engaged. But when we go up here to overwhelmed, overemployed, doing too much work, folks, again, they disengage. After a while, they disengage. They resent doing other people's work, for example. So how do we keep people engaged? You see this line here, these little lines, engaged employees typically stay pretty engaged. But you know, we all have good days and bad days. And right now we're having weird days. So you can see it's kind of like when it's up, it's a good day. When it's down, it's a not so good day. And people have children, people have other obligations. And so staying engaged, you can still be engaged, but you have good days and bad days as an engaged employee. As a leader, you want to pay attention to this middle part. You want to make sure that your employees are engaged, that you're not underemploying them, that you're not overemploying them, but that you are giving them work that meets their need for challenge, for meaning, work that not only is good for the organization, but for the employee's unique talent, skills, and abilities. So any questions on that? Because I think this is a fabulous model. And when I'm a career counselor, and people just like to come to me and talk. And when they come to me and they start telling me, and you know, let's get real, many stories are about how I can't get along with my supervisor. And so when we look at, and my job is to help them to figure out how to manage upward and get along with their supervisor. But when we look at where they are in this model, they get it right away where they are. And they honestly start to intuitively know some of the things they need to do in order to stay engaged. And that's why I like this model so much. And let me go back to this. I didn't spend a lot of time, but this is the book, Career Strategies for a Lifetime of Success, where this model is explained and explained very thoroughly. You cannot buy this on Amazon. It is a book that you have to buy from the author. And I'm just sharing that with you because I tried to get it on Amazon. I also purchased it on eBay, to tell you the truth, for half price. But that's a whole other story for a whole other presentation. So I wanted to bring this around to where we are today. And this was a joke on Facebook for a very, very long time, where Wi-Fi was a more basic need than Maslow's hierarchy, right? And thanks to Boxer Associates, they reminded me that if you don't have a battery, you don't have Wi-Fi. So having access to electricity, having access to Wi-Fi has become very important. I would go so far as to say in the hierarchy, because it's how we're staying connected. I live by myself, but I spend a lot of time, Ken knows, I attended his happy hour one day because there were just some people there and I got to see people's faces, and it was just nice to see people's faces. I have ordered out, you know, Uber Eats has become my new best friend. I couldn't be doing that without Wi-Fi. So I'm saying that things right now are kind of topsy-turvy. And even though I meant this as a joke, it's becoming not a joke. Yeah. It's becoming our new reality. So that's all I really have to say. 5 minutes left for questions. And
that's right. Can you go back to that previous slide, Carol?
I can.
Yeah. So I would ask everyone, given where you're at today, Again, I think Carol said it was meant to be a joke, but it's not a joke. It's not a joke that some of the things that maybe were important to us 4 weeks ago are less important today, given what we're doing. My question to all of you is, what are the things that are on the top of your list these days in terms of basic needs that are more important to you? And if you can share that on your screen, that would be great. Carol, I thought I'd take 2 minutes quickly and share some of the things that we're doing for our clients on employee engagement. Then we can open it up for some questions and finish up. So employee engagement is an area that we have, I'd say, deep expertise in. One of my things that I'm most proud of in my career is one of the organizations that we have worked a lot in over the past 15 years is in the intelligence community. And there's one agency that starts with a C and ends with an A, and there's an I in the middle, that they were tracking employee engagement, employee satisfaction. And as a result of our work, they were able to see an increase in employee satisfaction as a result of the work we're doing. And so, my belief is that more satisfied, more engaged employees are more productive. And so it does give me pride to know that, in some small way, we were helping the intelligence community fight terrorism by doing some of what we did around employee engagement. So the 4 things that we do around employee engagement is we have employee engagement surveys that you can do, either pulse surveys as a follow-up to the annual survey that the Partnership for Public Service does for government employees. We do training for employees and managers on how to be more engaged. We offer coaching for managers on how they can be better engagement facilitators of their people. And with Carol and others, we offer training for employees to help them figure out what they need to do with their career. And the last thing that we offer, we have a new partnership that we finalized last week. I know Tom Holloway knows about this. So we have access to this legally approved catalog of movie clips that senior leaders can use to communicate with their people during these times of change. And so if you're interested in that, just let me know. Carol, some of what we're hearing around people's response, definitely technology and be able to work with colleagues, engaging with family, friends, and colleagues. Again, technology, being able to train on the fly, since, obviously people are not, not face-to-face. Carol, if you could give us, what would be one suggestion that you could offer if someone was a manager or consulting with managers? What's one suggestion that you can offer on what a manager can do to more effectively help their people be more engaged during these turbulent times?
Well, I think that we have to treat each other tenderly. I think that we have to manage our expectations. That's exactly the phrase I want to use. We have to manage expectations. What is realistic to expect right now? It's not gonna be what was realistic to expect when we could all go outside and go to work. And my understanding is that when we go back to work, that it's not going to be one day everybody's allowed to go back to work, that it's going to be done incrementally. So I definitely believe that managing expectations is going to be key for managers as we get through this epidemic and we start living our lives similarly to the way they were. I would suggest that I don't think we'll ever quite go back to the way we were, because we have found new ways of doing things, ways that are effective, ways that work. But I guess I keep saying this over and over because one of the things that I notice is that folks are really kind of hard on themselves. You should be getting this done and you should be getting that done. And I think that that includes managers. And I think that if managers treat themselves with a certain amount of tenderness, that can spill over and they can pass that on to others.
I think that's a great, great, great closing comment for all of us. So if people need to skedaddle, you should do so, because it is 10 o'clock and we said we'd go 9:30 to 10. If people have any other questions for Carol, you should feel free to ask them. If you can go to the next slide, Carol. Again, if anyone has, if you'd like to, I'm assuming, Carol, are you okay if people want a copy of the PowerPoint? Could we
Oh,
share?
yeah.
So if you
Absolutely.
want a copy of the PowerPoint or you want a copy of the recording, send me an email and we'll send it out. And if anyone has any questions for Carol, you can either unmute yourself and ask them, or you can type in the chat. You can type in the chat bar and I'll monitor them. Tom, you have a question?
Not a question, just a comment.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. What I saw of the presentation was excellent. Unfortunately, my internet failed me in the middle of the presentation, so I'll look forward to the replay.
And I would be glad to share the slides. These are really, really big slides. But Ken, if they ask you for the slides, I'm okay with sharing them with them.
That's great. That's great. Carol, can I ask another question?
Of course.
So you talked about manager's perspective. I believe that employee engagement has to be at least 50.01 responsibility of every employee. So what advice would you have if you're an employee, either working in a federal agency or working in a corporation, or you're an independent consultant? What can you do to increase your level of engagement during these turbulent times?
Well, I think that naming things is very important, which is why I think that the model is extremely important. I would suggest that they take a look at the model, they decide where they are on that model. If they're in the engaged part, they need to not be too hard on themselves. Again, remember the dotted lines, or it wasn't perfect. It went up and down and up and down. There are good days, there are bad days. They cannot be too hard on themselves for having days that they're not as productive. But if they are overall generally very productive, they need to give themselves credit for that. One of the things that I notice about folks when they come to me, they don't understand the value that they add with their contributions to their organization. And part of what I work on with them a lot is to help them understand the value that they bring to the organization and what they do to contribute to the overall mission of the agency.
That's great. That's great. Thank you, Carol. I think really helpful. Carol, is there anything, last question I have, and then if anyone has any others, great. If not, we'll lend it. Is there anything that you think people might have been doing 4 weeks ago relative to employee engagement that's less relevant today?
Going to work.
Yeah.
It really, yeah, we're finding that we can do the same amount of work and more many times from home. What can we do to stay engaged? People have been saying this right along. Get up, get ready, go to work, have a separate room in your home where you go and you work there, and you can leave that room for lunch, you can leave that room for break, but make your day as similar to the workplace as you can, even though you're not physically in the workplace.
Yeah, I think that's great suggestions. Carol, it's always a pleasure to see your smiling face, and I really appreciate you doing this. I think this is a really, really timely topic. And so with that, we're going to end today's session. Again, as I said at the beginning, we're going to send everyone a quick survey asking you what you got from today's session. And we will ask, if you have any suggestions of topics that you'd like to see us offer down the road. Again, I think we're finalizing the May calendar as we speak. I think next week's session, I believe, is on resilience. Obviously, that's a fairly relevant topic that we all need to do. I think it dovetails what Carol was talking about today. So if you can take a couple of minutes and fill out the survey, that would be great. Kamori, thanks for riding shotgun and handling the administrative issues. That's really helpful to Carol and me. And with that, that's the end of today's meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Ken.
Thanks, Carol. Bye now.
Bye-bye.